Om Shruti-Smriti-Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad-Padam Shankaram Loka-Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashyakrito Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ नमः प्रणवार्थाय शुद्धज्ञानैकमूर्तये निर्मलाय प्रशान्ताय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। यः पूर्वं तपसो जातं
यः
पूर्वं
पूर्वं
तपोजं
तपसो जातम्
अद्भ्यः पूर्वमजायत
अद्भ्यः पूर्वमजायत
गुहां प्रविश्य तिष्ठन्तम्
गुहां
भविष्यति
प्रविश्य तिष्ठन्तम्
यो भूतेभिर्व्यपश्यत
ते
यो भूतेर्व्यपश्यत
एतद्वैतत्।
एतद्वैतत्
To do an anvaya, because there's got lots of verbs in this, so you have to do the anvaya a little carefully. Yaha Hiranyagarbha. Yaha refers to Hiranyagarbha. Tapasaha tapaso jatam. Born of the jnana component, if we want, of Brahman. Every time you say born, you have to probably in your mind say Iva as though born. Tapaso jata. That Hiranyagarbha, and because it is said to be jatam, born, is also karya. And when was it born? Purvam. There's another Purvam also there. Purvam ajayata. A relative Purvam. Before Adbhyaha. Before the waters. Now, it is born means it is karya. And we can look at the Tattva model for this. There is Brahman. There is only Brahman. I am not outside Brahman looking at Brahman. I am Brahman. I is Brahman. From that Brahman, by supplying a non-self-existent vastu, which is non-separate from Brahman, called Maya, by supplying that, we are ready for creation. So if you remember the model, there is Brahman Maya attached with the same thing as Brahman. From there, the first born is Prathamaja, Hiranyagarbha. That Hiranyagarbha is Prathamaja, first born, Brahmaji, different from Brahman, also called Sutratma. And because it is born, it is Karya. Beautiful model. Here is Karanam, from where as though Karya has arisen. Later we will negate Karya Karana also. But for the moment, this is Karya, because that is what we know. From that Hiranyagarbha, which is a Samashti Sukshma, you have the next thing happening. From that Samashti Sukshma, you get the individual Sukshma. Sukshma, as you remember, if you remember, that consists of all the 19, sometimes they call 17, sometimes 19 parts. Pancha Jnanendriya, Pancha Karmendriya, Pancha Prana, Buddhi, Manas, Chitta. Chitta here means memory. And Ahankara. That creates the individual Sukshma. Every living being must have individual Sukshma, otherwise it's not a living being. A stone does not have Sukshma. And Sukshma has no way of existing by itself. It needs a Sthula. So now you go back to that Hiranyagarbha, the Sukshma, from which you created all the Vyashti Sukshma called Taijasa. And on the other branch, it created, in fact, before this, you should probably add the one layer of Panchabhutas. From that Sukshma called Hiranyagarbha, Panchabhutas appeared. That Panchabhuta, Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apa and Prithvi, are in the Sukshma form itself. They are not perceptible. They are not available for perception. They are Sukshma. And from those Panchabhutas, various combinations, you get all these 19 Sukshma parts. For them to exist, because they are the ones who are the experiencer. Eventually, for the Jiva to experience, you need the Sukshma. We have some Vyashti Sukshma. That's why you don't see, we can't imagine stone being an experiencer. No Sukshma. Those Panchabhutas, in their Sukshma form, they become Sthula form of Panchabhuta through a process called Panchikarana. Now you have tangible form. And these tangible form, the Panchabhutas, in their Sthula form, also have the same name. Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apa and Prithvi. But now they are the Akasha, Vayu, etc. that we know now. And they in turn, in various combinations, create the Sthula Prapancham. This Sthula Prapancham consists both of insentient and sentient beings. Why is the difference? While the Sthula is created, some of them have the Sukshma also attached with them. Why is that necessary? Because the Jiva has to undergo experiences, karma phala. To undergo karma phala, you need both the Sukshma Sharira and the Sthula Sharira. That is what is required to exhaust the karma phala. A stone doesn't have karma phala. Every living organism has karma phala. Therefore, this stream you have the Sukshma components called Taijasa, this stream, that totality of Sthula called Virat, and from there the Vyashti, individual Sthula, when combined with the Sukshma called Vaishvanaraha. This is now ready for undergoing experiences. Question arises, who actually undergoes experiences? Neither the Sthula Sharira nor the Sukshma Sharira is a sentient thing. And unless there is sentiency, there is no experience. So who undergoes experience? Who is the bhokta? It is not the Sthula Sharira, it is not the Sukshma Sharira, but nor can it be Brahman, which is the original Karanam. So who is this bhokta? Sukshma Sharira, Sthula Sharira, I said, are insentient. And yet there is bhoktritvam. How does that happen? That is where tadatmyam comes in. When the original source, Brahman, not only does it creates all the following things as though, but in many places, Shastra will tell you, it then enters them. Can be sensed in the Sukshma part of the component of the Sharira. And you can't separate it. There is tadatmyam. So who then is the experiencer? Who is the bhokta? In the next one, you will see this. Who is the bhokta? We will examine that. So in the previous mantra, we said, Madbadam Veda Atmanam Jivamantika Ishanam Bhutabhavyasya. That equation between the Nirguna Brahman and Jiva was created. Aikyam. Now he breaks it down. Dharmaraja makes it very clear. From that original Brahman, along with Maya, which is non-separate from Brahman, as though the Hiranyagarbha is created, Virat is created, and then everything else follows. They are also karma, they are also karya, and they are therefore non-separate from the only vastu, that's real Brahman. Sarvasya Karanam Brahman. One fact to be known. And the second fact to be known is all karya is same as the Karanam. Normally for us, it is easy to understand when you say materially. Therefore, we have all these examples of mrit and the ghata and all other products, or gold and all the gold products. It's easier to understand. Karya is non-separate from the Karanam. Therefore, when in the Shruti it says, he entered. There's no entry. Brahman doesn't have any activity, nothing to enter. But that Karya is Brahman. Every Karya is Brahman. So the entire Prapancham now have a model where you have all the Panchabhutas, Sthula Panchabhuta, we have Hiranyagarbha, we have Virat, we have all the Vyashti individuals, everything here, including sentient and non-sentient. Remember, that is not only on this earth. That is true of everything that is known or unknown. What does it include? The entire cosmos, all the devatas, all of that is includes. All of them, every one of them, including this Sharira of mine, are Karya. And Karya is Karanat Ananyaha. It is the same. Therefore, he tries to show in these next few verses, next few mantras, that Hiranyagarbha also being Karya is non-separate from Brahman. Virat being non-separate from Brahman is also is a Karya, therefore non-separate from Brahman. He who sees this, he who can see this Hiranyagarbha in each jiva and recognize this as being non-separate from Brahman, he sees everything. He knows everything. This is the summary of what he is going to say in this mantra and other mantras that follow. Yap purvam tapaso jatam hiranyagarbham adbhyah purvam ajayata. Was in this model, if you see, what is adbhyah? All the panchabhutas, sukshma panchabhutas. Because sthula panchabhutas came later. This is before the sukshma panchabhutas. Therefore, the sukshma panchabhutas are also as though born of Hiranyagarbha. That's why Hiranyagarbha is called Prathamaja, firstborn. That Hiranyagarbha guham pravishyatishthantam sarvabhutam. This is sarvatma bhava. Every bhuta is the same Hiranyagarbha. Guham pravishyatishthantam. You can't take it literally. It is not as if it is in the cave of the heart. It is not separate from the rest of it. How can you say that it's in the cave? But to understand this. Guham pravishyatishthantam yaha vyapashyata. He who can see this. See what? See this Hiranyagarbha and see it as being non-separate from Brahman. Yaha vyapashyata. He is Brahman. That is the knowledge. Etad vaitat. Therefore, that is what the mantra is trying to say. Previous mantra said Nirguna Brahman is, if you know yourself to be Nirguna Brahman, you are Nirguna Brahman. You don't have to become Nirguna Brahman. You are Nirguna Brahman. You only have to know. Now he breaks it down and say, Hiranyagarbha, you are Hiranyagarbha, which is non-separate from Brahman. He who knows this is Brahman. That Brahman is the Atma. That is what he wanted to know. Etad vaitat. If you do the Anvaya on this, it becomes so much easier to follow what is being said. We will read the Bashyam. Yaha kaschin mumukshuhu
यः कश्चिन् मुमुक्षुः
पूर्वं प्रथमं
पूर्वं प्रथमं
प्रथमं
तपसः ज्ञानादिलक्षणात् ब्रह्मणः
आदिलक्षणात् ब्रह्मणः
आदिलक्षणात् ब्रह्मणः
इत्येतत्
इत्येतत्
तत्
I don't know why it is mumukshuhu here. Kashin mumukshuhu purvam prathamam tapasah jnanadilakshanat brahmanaha ityetat. Okay, only explaining those three words, yaha, purvam and tapasah, because the sentence is not complete. Yaha kashin mumukshuhu purvam prathamam tapasah jnanadilakshanat brahmanaha ityetat. Somewhere there should be a word, because if it is mumukshuhu, there must be a pashyati or a word, a verb to that effect. But he's just explaining, I think, the word. Yaha purvam tapasaha jnanadilakshanat brahmanaha, which is jatam, born of. That question mumukshuhu sees, probably come later. Purvam here means prathamam, first to be born. Yaha purvam prathamam tapasaha jatam. So that should be Panchami. Jnanadilakshanat brahmanaha. That Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma Jnanam indicates the, in this case, I would imagine it indicates the Nimitta Karana. That, because it's all Sukshma, that's where the Jnanam has to take place. In your Sukshma Sharira, Jnanam has to take place. Jnanam cannot take place in the Sthula Sharira. Sthula Sharira, one can easily imagine as coming from material cause. This is about Sukshma Sharira, Hiranyagarbha. Purvam, Prathamam, Tapasaha, there should be a Jatam, Jnanadi Lakshanat Brahmana. He's only explaining the word. What is Tapasaha? Jnanadi Lakshanat Brahmanaha. Tapasaha is not the tapas verb. Tapasa, I mean Jnanadi Lakshanat Brahma, the intelligent cause, if you want. Brahman is both the material and intelligent cause. So, more than anything else, explaining two words, Purvam and Tapasaha. The Tapasaha is the Jnanadilakshanat Brahmanaha. From that Brahman, in the seen as Nyapti, Jna Dhatu Artha. Not the Jnanam that we usually refer to in the samsara. That Jnanam, Jnanadi Lakshanat, subtle point to understand. Satyam Jnanam Anantam, Satyam is Jnanam, Jnanam is Anantam, Anantam is Satyam, Anantam is Jnanam. But for understanding of this whole concept, that there is Hiranyagarbha, which is Sukshma, Samashti, from which all Sukshmas come. Therefore, it is said is Jnanadi Lakshana, Jnana Adi Lakshanat, Brahmanaha. once you understand that, he says, from this Brahman, as though Jatam, as though born or as though created. If you want to talk about the Nimitta Karanam, then maybe created is a better word. Indicate that we are talking about the intelligent cause. That knowledge must be there for anything to be created. So, Jatam,
Jatam,
Utpannam,
Utpannam,
Hiranyagarbham.
Hiranyagarbham.
So, from this Jnanadi Lakshanad Brahmanaha, something is Jatam. What is Jatam? What is born? What is created? What is Utpannam? Is Hiranyagarbham. So, referring to the same structure that we discussed, that Hiranyagarbha, which is born of Brahman, as though, and being born is a karya. And as being a karya, it is different from, non-different from karanam. Karanam is karya. Karya is karanam. That's not a good statement. Karya is karanam. Karanam need not be karya, because there will be many karyas you'll get out of karanam. All that we will negate. So, Hiranyagarbha is born from this Brahman as the first one, Purvam, Prathamam, Jatam, from which all the other things that we recognize in this Jagat and we know and we don't know is as though born. Now, Purvam is like an absolute Prathamam. What is it in relation to what are we saying Prathamam? If only one person ran a race, you can say he came first. But if two people run a race, you can say he came first in relation to the fellow who came second. Here also, compared to what is it Prathamam? Really speaking, as we saw, it is compared to anything, it is Prathamam. But for understanding, he says, Kim apekshya
Kim apekshya
purvamityaha.
purvamityaha.
This purvam that is used first as Prathamam, compared to what is his Prathamam? What came after, compared to that, this must be Prathamam. What came after? Kim apekshya purvam ityaha. Adbhyaha purvam.
Adbhyaha purvam.
All the Panchabhutas are indicated by Adbhyaha. Prior to, before this waters emerged. And Acharya makes it very clear by saying, Apsahitebhyaha
Apsahitebhyaha
Panchabhutebhyaha
Panchabhutebhyaha
na kevalabhyodhyaha
न
na
केवलं
Kevaladhyodhyaha
kevaladhyodhyaha
ityabhiprayah.
Ityabhiprayah.
Makes it very clear. Adbhyaha, there is no adi and things like that, but the fact is that this is a upacharikam only. It is only showing that all the Panchabhutas in their Sukshma form and later in the Sthula form, compared to all of them, this is Prathama, Purvam. So, Adbhyaha Purvam Apsahitebhyaha. Along with what? Panchabhutebhyaha. All of them. Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apa is already shown here, and Prithvi in their Sukshma form and later in their Sthula form, not only waters. Na kevala abhyodbhyaha. It is abhyaha. Abhyaha means not only water. It includes all the Panchabhutas. Therefore, that model we presented in the beginning makes sense. This Prathamaja Hiranyagarbha is Prathama, Purvam. But relative to what came later? What came later? All the Panchabhutas, initially in the Sukshma form, later in the Sthula form. So, Panchabhutebhya na kevalebhya advya iti abhipraya. Acharya makes it very clear that you're not talking about only. Otherwise, if you take little meaning, we'll have a little problem. Came before waters means what? So, it makes it very clear that before those Panchabhutas emerge, once you have accepted Prathamaja, then you have created this Vyavaharika Prapancham already. Correct? After that, you don't even have to say Iva. From that came Akashad, Vayu, Vayu, Agnihi, etc., etc. You can say because it is all in the same order of reality. Only when you're talking about Brahman and then these other creations that follow, it has to be Iva. But the moment you come into Hiranyagarbha and Virat, everything is automatically said to be born off. So from that Hiranyagarbha, all the Panchabhutas are born. So therefore, the second Purvam here in the mantra, Adbhya Purvam Ajayata, was born before Adbhya Ityadi. Because it is the first one. Therefore, there are many things that followed. That is the thing. It's not a one-man race. Many people were running the race. All of them behind. This is the one that came, and then all the others were created, were produced. Iti abhiprayah. Ajayata.
Ajayata.
Utpannaha.
Utpannaha.
Yastam prathamajam.
Yastam pratamajam.
Ajayata, created. Utpannaha, produced. From where? Prathamajam, the firstborn. Now we make it very clear. Earlier we were using the word Hiranyagarbha. Prathamajam. Prathamaja. Then this is the interesting part. Devadi Sharirani.
Devadi Sharirani.
Utpadhya.
Utpadhya.
Sarva Prani Guham.
Sarva Prani
Hridaya Kasham.
Akasham.
Pravishya Tishtantam.
Pravishya Tishtantam.
Shabdadin Upalabhamanam.
Shabdadin Upalabhamanam.
All Prani Guham. Sarva Prani Guham. All sentient beings. Now the all includes what? All that we know here in the water, on land, in the sky, all of them. It includes everything. Trees, plants, anything which might have life. Also includes things we don't know, we only can know from other pramana, Shastra pramana. Deva, Gandharva, Kinnar, all of them included. Because everything has to start from that Prathamaja. From that Ajayata Utpannaha, here we don't even have to think of Viva. Devadi Sharirani, all Deva Sharira, Manusha Sharira, Tiryak Sharira, plants and herbs and all of them. They all enjoy the same status. of being sentient beings. And their sentiency comes because of Hiranyagarbha. Remember the example we've seen elsewhere. One sun, multiple reflecting surfaces and non-reflecting surfaces make it appear as though there are many suns, each different from the other. Why? Because the reflecting surface. You have a mirror which is clean, a mirror which is dirty, mirror which is concave, mirror which is convex, mirror which is cracked. Other reflecting surfaces like a sheet of water with ripples in it. Therefore, it looks like there are so many of them. But none of them really exist. There's only one sun. Similarly here, the presence of Hiranyagarbha in the Sukshma Sharira. We said in the model that Sthula, many things are created depending upon the combinations. Into some of them, the Sukshma Sharira, Hiranyagarbha enters, combines, creating a sentient being. In others, there is no sentiency. That's what he's saying here. Ajayata utpannaha yastam prathamajam devadi sharirani. Deva adi sharirani. Deva sharira, manusha sharira, tilyak sharira, yaksha, kinna, whatever. Sharirani utpadhya, having created. Prathamaja, having created. Prathamaja, which is non-separate, be from Brahman, being Karya. Having created this, what happens? Sarva Prani Guham. Into the cave of all pranis. Prani means anything which is pranadhara. A pranadhari can be Manushya, Deva, or any other living being. Sarva Prani Guham, into them, into their Guha. Hridaya Kasham, in the space of the Hridaya. Euphoric. It's not literal. Can't be. Buddhau, where its understanding takes place. Upalabdhistanam. Not because into my Hridaya one Hiranyagarbha comes in. No. It is the place where understanding takes place of the key understanding we are talking about. Sarva Prani Guham Hridaya Kasham Pravishya. Having entered into, there is no entry, there is no exit. Because all Karya is same as Karanam. This is a understanding one has to get clearly. They are all Karya and the original Karanam is Brahman, seen as individual through individual Vyashti, Sukshma, looking as though there are many, many different ones. Hridaya Kasham Pravishya Tishtantam, sitting there. Shabdadin Upalabhamanam,
Shabdadin upalabhamanam.
Bhutebihi,
Bhutebihi,
Bhutaihi,
Bhutaihi.
Karya Karana Lakshanaihi,
Karya karana lakshanaihi.
Yaha Tishtantam,
Yaha
Saha
tishtantam.
Tishtantam,
Sahachittantam,
Saha tishtantam.
Yaha Vyapashyata,
यः
यः
व्यपश्यत
व्यपश्यत
यः पश्यति इति एतत्.
यः
यः
पश्यति इति एतत्
This Hridayakasham pravishya tishtantam. What does he do? Shabdadin upalabhamanam. Experiencing everything. Shabdadin upalabhamanam. Upalabha labdhatu. Prapya. Experiencing. Bhutaihi saha. Bhutebhihi, it says here. That is probably Chandasam. So Acharya converts into Bhutaihi saha. Along with all the senses and sense organs and everything else there, all the subtle bodies, in the form of Karya Karana Lakshanaha. Lakshanaihi saha. Tritiya Bhavachanam. Bhutaihi Karya Karana Lakshanaihi saha. Karya is physical body. Karana is all the subtle bodies. Antakarana, Bhahikarana, everything. Karya Karana Lakshanaihi saha Putaihi saha Karana Karya Lakshanaihi saha, in the form of Karya Karana aspect. Tishtantam yaha vyapashyata. He who can recognize this. There are two yaha in this mantra. Yaha purvam tapasa, that yaha refers to Hiranyagarbha. Yo vyapashyata. One who sees that. One is able to recognize that. Vyapashyata. Again, Acharya says, read it as pashyati. Now what has happened? That Karya Karana Sanghata is non-separate from the Hiranyagarbha, which is non-separate from Brahman. I have been identifying myself as this Karya Karana Sanghata, which is non-separate from Hiranyagarbha, non-separate from Brahman. That aikyam, that one thing called Atma, is what you are asking for. Hey Nachiketa, what you asked for is that. Saha bhutaihi karya karana lakshnaihi saha tishtantam yaha vyapashyati tad etat. That is that. That is what you're looking for. It's only a matter of understanding. Now we understand why moksha is only jnanam. Moksha is nothing to be believed in. We might start with that. I believe our rishis knew something I don't know. They talk about moksha. There is a place, a methodology by which I can gain moksha, because moksha, they say, is freedom from birth and death. That's how we start. Now it became very clear that this is only knowing that I is that Brahman. Now the Mahavakya becomes clear. Aham Brahmasmi. That clarity of knowledge, yaha pashyati, what happens to that person? Ya evam pashyati,
स एवं पश्यति
एवं पश्यति
sa etad eva pashyati.
तत् एवम्
तदेव
एतत् पश्यति
पश्यति
Yat tat prakritam brahma.
यत्तत् प्रकृतं
तत्प्रदं
ब्रह्म
ब्रह्म.
One who sees it like this, sees the Aikyam. Earlier, in the previous mantra, I called Madhvadam, experiencer. My senses perceive, but do they really perceive? They don't. I can't even say I perceive. So what? Or I experience. What experiences? Does the mind experience joy? Mind by itself is incapable of experiencing anything. So who is the experiencer? That tadatmyam, when I understand that experience belongs to vyavaharika satyam. Kartrutvam belongs to vyavaharika satyam. Aham brahmasmi. I am not this samsara which is full of experiences. But all experiences are non-separate from Brahman, therefore non-separate from me. That this one is able to see, ya evam pashyati. Katham, that non-separateness, the aikyam between whatever I assumed I was, and that I cannot be existent without Hiranyagarbha. Therefore, I am not non-separate from Hiranyagarbha, which is non-separate from Brahman, linked all the way. Therefore, Aham Brahmasmi. That one who sees, ya evam pashyati, sa etadeva pashyati. He sees this only, that which you asked for. Etad vaitat. That is what you're asking for. That is what he sees. Yat tat prakritam brahma. That Brahman which is under discussion. That Atma which is under discussion. Tat Brahma, sa Atma, the same. Tat Brahma, sa Atma, that when one sees, one perceives, one understands, one recognizes, that is what you were asking for. That etat. Sa etadeva pashyati yat tat prakritam brahma, which you were asking for. That which is under discussion about what is it Atma? What is it that transcends, that is beyond dharma, which is beyond time, which is beyond space. That you will ask for. You asked for. That I am trying to explain. Is this etat? Is not finished. He said, Nirguna Brahman is I. Even if we look at it through the creation aspect of it, Hiranyagarbha is I, and Hiranyagarbha is same as Brahman. That one transition between this order of reality of Vyavahika Satyam to Paramarthika Satyam is where the difficulty is, the catch is. So when I think of I as the individual, I am looking at a Vyavaharika Satyam. As long as I stay within this order of reality, everything is real. Everything is true. The body is real, the mind is real, the pain is real, the pleasure is real, all the feelings are real, the hunger is real, everything is real. exactly the way everything is real inside the dream as long as you are in the dream. So that transition to understanding it from looking at it the perspective of Paramarthika perception, that becomes the key to understanding. So, etadeva pashyati yat tat prakritam brahma. He doesn't stop here. There is this thing on the Tikakara. Let me see what he says. Yakashchit Puram. You only add the word tadatmyam. Shabdadin upalabhamanam iti yad iti yasman loke suvarnad jatam kundalam. I give an example. Just like in the loka, from gold, suvarnad jatam kundalam suvarnameva bhavati. Karyam is same as the karanam. Tadvat brahmanaha jataha hiranyagarbha api brahmatmaka eve ityarthaha. Not much explanation in the Tikakara. Anandagiri says the same thing. It is an example of saying, just like every gold ornament is gold, and you can't take the gold out of the gold ornament and still have the ornament, you can't have. In the same way, he says, Yasman loke suvarnat jatam kundalam suvarnameva bhavati. In the same way, tadvat brahmanaha jataha, that which is born of Brahman, as though, here you have to add as though. Hiranyagarbha api brahmatmaka eva ityarthaha, is also only Brahman. Once that is established, Hiranyagarbha is Brahman, everything follows. Because Hiranyagarbha is Adbhya Purvam. And everything that comes after is same as Brahman. Kincha. Acharya uses the word kimcha to connect with this previous mantra. Kincha means, however, moreover, to say that it's continuing in the same discussion on Hiranyagarbha. Ya pranena
या
या
प्राणेन
sambhavati
भवति
aditi devata-mayi
मयि
guham pravishyati shthantim
गुहां प्रविश्य
ya bhutebhir vyajayata
या भूतेभिर्विजायत
etad vaitat.
एतद्वैतत्
It's also continuing the same Hiranyagarbha on the same way in discussions. Second line remains more or less the same. Guham pravishyati shthantim ya bhutebhir vyajayata. There, I think instead of vajayata, he used the word apashyata. Pashyati. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you.
Om
नमस्कारः
Swamiji.
धन्यवादाः पुनः मिलामः
Swamiji.
ओम
Namaste
स्वामी
Swamiji.
जी
Om.
धन्यवाद
Namaste Swamiji. Namaste Swamiji.